Shalama, my friends. I'm Samuel.
And I'm Shoshana.
And today we're going to tell you a story about a miracle. You know, the Bible is full of stories of miracles, and many of them of the miracles of a man named Jesus. And this miracle takes place during a storm. Are you scared of storms? It's okay. Sometimes I am too. You know, storms can be bright with lightning, loud with thunder, and wet with rain. But they don't always have to be scary, you know. What are some things that you do to make yourself feel comfortable in a storm? Shoshana, do you remember what you had me do when I was scared during the last storm?
I taught you how to make a storm.
Yes, would you do it again?
Would you like to learn how to make a storm? So a storm starts with some winds. Can you rub your hands together like this? It kind of sounds like rushing winds. And then the rain starts. It's soft at first. Can you snap your fingers to make little raindrops? And then it starts to get heavier. Lightly tap on your legs. And then it gets even heavier. Stomp your feet, it gets even heavier! Boom!
Well done everyone. Well done, Shoshana. You did wonderfully. And you know, this is a story about a miracle in a storm. And that's actually going to be our word of the day today. So whenever you hear me say storm in the story, I want you to scream and shout and yell, boom! Shoshana, why don't you pantomime the story behind me while I tell it?
Okay.
Yes, good. So, one day, Jesus and his disciples were walking down the gentle slopes to the shore of the Sea of Galilee. And all 13 of them climbed into one wooden fisherman's boat. And then one or two of them had to get out because they needed to push the boat off the shore into the water. They needed to launch the boat into the open waters of the sea. Once the boat was out in the water, they started their 7-mile journey to Gergesa. Now at first, everything was fine. You can look up into the sky. It was a bright, clear day. It was a blue sky. The sun was shining. The breeze was blowing against their skin and against their face. They could smell the salt in the air. But then things began to change, you see. The disciples looked up and they noticed that the sky was beginning to get dark. The sun was no longer shining and the breeze had become cold. It became a strong wind and it began to rain. And then it began to rain harder. It was a storm. And the water began to pour on top of them. And so the disciples grabbed buckets and they started trying to get the water out of the boat as quickly as they could, scooping the water out of the boat. But then they noticed that Jesus wasn't helping. Well, where was he? And then they noticed that Jesus, he was in the back of the boat, asleep like a baby.
Master, we're going to die in this storm! Teacher, don't you care?
His eyes opened, and he stood up, balanced in the back of the boat, and he looked out at the storm, and he said, "Peace! Be still!" And the winds died, and the sea stopped its raging, and everything was calm. And he turned to his disciples, and he said, "Where is your faith? Why are you so afraid? Do you still have no faith?"
Who is this man? When he speaks, even the wind and the waves obey him. Who is he?
And then, not long after, the boat reached the other side. They made it safely to the shore, across the Sea of Galilee, after the storm. He calmed the storm and the winds and the waves. And you know, this is one of many stories in the Bible that talks about miracles that are done by God's people, many of them done by Jesus. And so, my friends, thank you for joining us. You'll have to come back next week to hear another miracle of Jesus, but don't worry, this one's on land. Shalama.
Shalama.